As joint U.S.-Philippine naval forces conducted live fire drills in the South China Sea during Balikatan 2025, shadowy figures loomed nearby. Chinese warships, silent but unmistakably close, mirrored every move, marking a dangerous turn in an already volatile region. Balikatan, meaning shoulder to shoulder, is the largest annual joint military exercise between the United States and the Philippines. This year's drills are bigger than ever, featuring amphibious landings, live fire missile exercises, air defense maneuvers, and cyber defense operations. Key to Balikatan 2025 is the maritime component, where U.S. and Philippine warships operate jointly in the contested waters of the South China Sea. These exercises test everything from anti-submarine warfare to coordinated missile strikes, vital skills in a real conflict scenario. Chinese Navy warships, including at least two Type 052D destroyers and a Type 054A frigate, were seen shadowing the exercises. Satellite imagery confirmed that these vessels maintained a tight proximity to U.S. and Philippine ships, tracking their every movement. Shadowing is an aggressive form of passive surveillance meant to intimidate and gather intelligence. Chinese ships mirrored Allied maneuvers, occasionally cutting closer than maritime norms dictate. This raises the risks of collisions and unintended escalation. Despite the close proximity, U.S. and Philippine forces maintained strict rules of engagement to avoid escalation. Radio communications were opened with the Chinese ships, urging them to respect navigational safety, but responses were often curt or absent. In a report by Chino Gaston on the BRP Apolinario, Mabini was approached Saturday morning by a Chinese warship while sailing off northern Luzon. At around 8 a.m., a Chinese Navy Zhangkai II class frigate with bow number 579 appeared and circled behind the Philippine Navy vessel, seemingly conducting close-range surveillance. BRP Apolinario Mabini was dwarfed by the larger Chinese vessel, yet the Philippine ship continued its course as planned. The Philippine ship was participating in division tactic exercises alongside the BRP Ramon Alcaraz, the BRP Gabriela Silang of the Philippine Coast Guard, and U.S. Navy vessels USS Savannah and USS Comstock. It was seen that the Chinese frigate eventually distanced itself as the USS Savannah, a littoral combat ship, maneuvered to begin a line formation within the Philippines' exclusive economic zone. Two more Chinese ships, one with bow number 500 and the Dongdiao, two auxiliary surveillance ship with bow number 797, arrived later, positioning themselves 8 to 15 nautical miles from the formation of Allied vessels. In response, the USS Comstock deployed a helicopter to conduct an aerial survey near the Chinese ships. Meanwhile, the BRP Ramon Alcaraz issued multiple radio challenges to the Chinese vessels, which were answered with radio challenges of their own. The Chinese Navy said it expelled a Philippine warship that illegally intruded into the waters of a disputed shoal in the South China Sea on Sunday, hours before the start of Washington and Manila's annual joint military drills. The People's Liberation Army Southern Theater Command said on Sunday night that the BRP Apolinario Mabini, a Jacinto-class patrol vessel in the Philippine Navy, was challenged near Scarborough Shoal, which is claimed by Beijing and Manila earlier that day. The shoal, which is known as Huangyan Island in China and Panatag Shoal in the Philippines, has been in Beijing's actual control since 2012. Command spokesman Senior Colonel Zhao Zhiwei said the Philippine frigate illegally entered China's territorial waters of Huangyan Island without the approval of the Chinese government. We organized forces to track, monitor, warn, and expel the vessel in accordance with the law. We urge the Philippines to immediately stop its infringement and provocation, or it will bear all the consequences, he said. In response, a Philippine Navy spokesman reiterated Manila's sovereignty claim, telling GMA News that Philippine forces have the authority to challenge any ship within its maritime zones. The incident occurred on the eve of the first Balikatan, which means shoulder-to-shoulder war games between the U.S. and the Philippines since U.S. President Donald Trump's return to the White House. The exercise is seen as a sign of Washington's continuing defense commitment to its ally in the face of rising tensions with Beijing. Efforts are ongoing to obtain a statement from the Chinese embassy regarding the incident. At one point during the drills, the BRP Gabriela Silang sailed between U.S. and Philippine Navy ships. Altogether, 9 different ship formations were executed by the U.S. and Philippine navies, along with the Philippine Coast Guard, as part of the Division Tactics training under Balikatan 2025. Despite the presence of Chinese warships observing from a distance, the exercises continued without disruption. The Allied forces are set to resume training operations on Sunday, including underway replenishment drills, while continuing their coordinated sailing exercises. China views Balikatan not just as exercises, but as direct preparation for a future conflict over Taiwan or the South China Sea. With new U.S. access to key Philippine bases under EDCA, Beijing sees its regional influence slipping, and it's responding with intimidation tactics. The presence of Chinese shadow vessels during Balikatan is not just a threat to the Philippines, it's a signal to the entire region. Southeast Asian nations are ramping up military spending, strengthening alliances, and preparing for a future where the South China Sea could become a battleground. More drills are planned larger, more complex, and increasingly multinational. The U.S. and its allies are sending a message: they will not back down. Meanwhile, China's shadowing operations are expected to become more aggressive, raising the risk of a flashpoint incident. The waters of the South China Sea are getting more crowded and more dangerous. Balikatan proves that alliances are strong, but Chinese warships stalking the drills show that peace in the region hangs by a thread. What do you think are the Balikatan drills necessary to maintain peace? Or are they pushing the region closer to conflict? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for in-depth coverage of global defense developments and strategic flashpoints.